Now obviously with the sound up, you wouldn't hear half of this, but as it's not playing at the moment, you will hear some of it. And it's something you get used to with Laserdisc. You hear the side break. But there we go, quite seamless, quite quick. It's just like a normal fade out. Now some discs actually fade the picture out and then fade the picture back in, so it looks pretty unnoticeable. That's only some discs, obviously. So there we are, side 2. Pause, because it's a CLV disc, will only be a blank screen, you can actually pause and have an image. Just like in the days of Betamax, they wouldn't have a still frame. So that's a CLV NTSC disc. Next we'll move on to a CLV PAL disc. Okay, so now we're on to a PAL CLV disc. As you can see, when you fast forward, the picture doesn't strobe as much. It also has better picture quality on a PAL disc. A PAL disc was obviously in PAL format, analog format, which had more lines than the NTSC disc. Now, because it had a better picture and more picture information had to be stored, it changed the soundtracks you could hold. An American disc could hold basically PCM uncompressed stereo for its digital soundtrack, so that would hold Dolby surround information. After 1995, where Clear and Present Danger came out as the first Dolby Digital disc, you could have Dolby Digital. Now the Dolby Digital, because Laserdisc only had a certain amount of space, was stored in the analog sound channels. You'd have 2 digital sound left and rights, 2 analog sound left and rights. Because you had digital, there was no need for the analog space anymore. Analog 1 was normally used for things like director's commentaries, which of course came first on Laserdisc. Analog 2 would be used for Dolby Digital. Now DTS took up even more space, so that would go in place of the digital stereo soundtracks. The analog would normally stay, so you'd have analog Dolby Surround, but in the case of some DTS discs you'd have director's commentaries, so therefore you'd only have mono, or at worst nothing at all apart from DTS. Now because this is an English disc, it only has a digital soundtrack, so you have digital left, digital right and digital stereo, and that's all you can get out of a PAL disc. So the fast forward's starting to roll a bit there, which it wasn't before, which is odd. And as you can see, we've still got chapters. We'll skip to chapter 9, which is the last one on this disc side. Let's see if this disc has a remain display show. No, it doesn't. There we go, there's the end. So it'll just turn itself over. There we go. So it's quite quick turning over, even in PAL mode. Take the display off. But it does, like I say, have a high resolution and a slightly clearer picture. There were less discs produced in PAL than there were in NTSC. Wasn't a huge difference really. Obviously if you wanted the latest films with the latest sound, you'd go for NTSC. Most players made, especially around the time I got mine, which was around 1995, 96 maybe, you could not buy a player that only played PAL. Everything played PAL and NTSC, and pretty much everything had both side play, so it would turn the disc over for you. So that's a PAL disc. Next we'll move on to a NTSC CAV disc that has Dolby Digital. Okay, so now we've got the 7 Criterion edition in NTSC. This is a CAV box set, so every single disc in this box set is in CAV, and as you can see by the trailer, is also in Dolby Digital. Now, one thing you notice about the fast forward and rewind, there's no rolling. In fact, it's super smooth. Because CAV is stored frame by frame, you get the exact still frame when you pause it. Now this is actually better than DVD's pause. Maybe not in the result you get, but technically, because it's each individual frame, it is a lot closer to what you should actually see. Now we can do all the trick play stuff. We can step the image backwards, forwards, frame by frame. So this was good for film studies back in the day, or people want to know more about filmmaking. You can run it 1/8 speed, half speed, ×2. Chapters still exactly the same as on a CLV disc. Now, what we'll show here, I'll have to turn the sound up and hope that someone from New Line and Warner Brothers doesn't kill me for doing this, or Criterion. It's set digital sound initially. So there's the digital PCM soundtrack, 2-channel. Turn it to analog. Analog 1.
That's what they were expecting.
We have the audio commentary, especially produced for Criterion, only available on this Laserdisc. It's not on the DVD, this exact one. Now, if I had it hooked up to an amplifier with an RF demodulator, then we could get Dolby Digital off it, which is on the analog 2. Since it isn't, you still hear the director's commentary. Let's turn that back down so it doesn't get destroyed. Now, an RF demodulator is a weird piece of kit. Basically, you can't get Dolby Digital off a Laserdisc the same way you would with a DVD. It was recorded in a different format. So to get it, you have to demodulate the signal. It's all complicated, I won't go into it because I know I'm boring people already. So, you had to have this special little box to hook up to an amplifier. I never got one because by the time I was into Dolby Digital, they were a nightmare to find. So I just stuck with PCM and Dolby Surround because it still sounds amazing. Don't forget, DVDs didn't have PCM soundtracks. It was only now with Blu-ray we've got full uncompressed sound. Laserdisc was the first with that. So if we find something else to mess with. Any point in the film, yeah, perfect pause of Arlie Emery there. Fast forward, rewind. And the side brake is exactly the same on a CAV disc as it is to a CLV disc. No difference in speed, no difference in the way it looks, except decent authorers or I think studios like Criterion put a decent break in so it doesn't cut. Some breaks were halfway through some people talking, it was stupid. Criterion know what they're doing, they put a decent break in there. So there we go, that's the different types of discs you could get, a rough idea of how they work. Hopefully this one won't be taken down or flagged for copyright infringement. Show you how it loads, because some people were asking how long it takes to load. So, disc in tray, press play, and it goes. It does sound a bit like a lawnmower. People with 360s have no idea what loud disc drives sound like. Playing, and we're in. So not long at all really. So there we go, this is DVD Mike saying I'll see you next time. And hope everyone knows a little bit more about Laserdisc.